He wasn't born in a smoky bar. He didn't grow up with a gun in his coat pocket or a fedora over his eyes. But by the time Hollywood was done with him, Humphrey Bogart was the tough guy, the loner, the legend. What turned a wealthy doctor's son into the face of film noir? And what demons did he carry behind that cold stare? This is the real story behind the myth of Bogart. Humphrey Bogart was born Humphrey DeForest Bogart on December 25, 1899, in New York City. He rose from relatively privileged beginnings to become one of the most iconic and enduring figures in American cinema. Often referred to simply as Bogey, he embodied a new kind of movie hero, one who combined tough, streetwise charisma with deep emotional complexity. Despite a late start in film stardom, Bogart left an indelible mark on Hollywood's golden age, earning acclaim not just for his unique screen presence, but also for his dedication to his craft and the legacy he helped shape. Bogart was born to a well-to-do family. His father, Belmont DeForest Bogart, was a respected heart surgeon, and his mother, Maud Humphrey, was a prominent illustrator and a suffragette. He was educated in elite preparatory schools and initially expected to follow a professional path such as medicine or law. However, after serving briefly in the United States Navy during World War I, where he reportedly developed the scar on his lip that later contributed to his trademark lisp, Bogart drifted toward the theatrical world. He began working on Broadway in the 1920s, initially taking minor roles and doing stage management. While his early stage work was largely unremarkable, it laid the foundation for his acting discipline and screen sensibilities. His transition to Hollywood in the 1930s was gradual and filled with typecasting. Bogart often portrayed gangsters and villains, rarely given leading roles in his early years at Warner Brothers. It wasn't until his breakthrough performance as the ruthless Duke Mantee in The Petrified Forest, 1936, that critics and audiences began to take notice of his potential. Still, real stardom eluded him for several years. Bogart's rugged features and understated style made him a difficult fit for the more romantic, clean-cut leading man image of the era. However, his luck changed in the early 1940s when he starred in a trio of films that would define his legacy. His portrayal of Private Detective Sam Spade in The Maltese Falcon, 1941, directed by John Huston, heralded a new kind of American anti-hero. The film is now considered one of the earliest and most influential examples of film noir, and Bogart's performance helped shape the hard-boiled archetype that would dominate the genre. His laconic delivery, moral ambiguity, and world-weary cynicism resonated with audiences during the uncertain years of World War II. Then came Casablanca, 1942, the film that would etch Bogart's name permanently into cinematic history. As Rick Blaine, the cynical nightclub owner who ultimately sacrifices his happiness for a greater cause, Bogart displayed a rich emotional depth previously unseen in his career. The role earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor and helped cement Casablanca as a timeless masterpiece. The film's themes of love, loss, and personal redemption were amplified by Bogart's layered performance, which balanced stoicism with vulnerability in a way that captivated global audiences. In 1944, Bogart starred in To Have and Have Not, opposite a young newcomer, Lauren Bacall. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, and their off-screen romance blossomed into one of Hollywood's most beloved partnerships. They married in 1945 despite a 25-year age difference and went on to co-star in 3 more films: The Big Sleep, 1946, Dark Passage, 1947, and Key Largo, 1948. Their relationship was marked by genuine affection and mutual respect, and it helped humanize Bogart in the public eye, showing a softer side to the tough guy persona he so often portrayed. Bogart's career continued to flourish throughout the 1950s. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role as the hard-drinking riverboat captain Charlie in The African Queen, 1951, starring opposite Katharine Hepburn. The film demonstrated his versatility as he seamlessly blended humor, grit, and heart. In his later years, Bogart took on more complex roles in films like Sabrina, 1954, The Caine Mutiny, 1954, and In a Lonely Place, 1950, each performance contributing to his reputation as one of the greatest actors of all time. Humphrey Bogart's personal life was as dramatic and eventful as many of the films in which he starred. Over the course of his life, he was married 4 times, each union revealing different facets of his personality, career, and emotional journey. Bogart's first marriage was to actress Helen Menken, whom he wed on May 20th, 1926, following a courtship that lasted approximately 4 years. At the time, Bogart was still early in his acting career, working mostly in stage productions and slowly building a reputation for himself in New York theater circles. Helen Menken was already an established stage actress, known for her strong performances and professional demeanor. Their romance blossomed in the vibrant atmosphere of the 1920s theater scene, a period marked by artistic experimentation and a booming post-war cultural revival. However, despite the time they had spent together before marriage, their union quickly proved to be fraught with difficulties. The pressures of burgeoning careers, coupled with the emotional strain of marriage in the public eye, likely contributed to its rapid unraveling. Less than 2 years after exchanging vows, the couple divorced on November 18, 1927, ending what would be the shortest of Bogart's 4 marriages. The split was reportedly amicable, though little public detail was shared, perhaps because both were still in the process of solidifying their standing in the entertainment world. Only a few months later, Bogart entered into his second marriage, this time with actress Mary Phillips on April 3, 1928. Mary, like Menken, was a successful and respected stage actress, best known for her work on Broadway. Initially, the couple appeared to be well matched, both sharing a deep appreciation for the theater and understanding the demands of an acting career. However, the late 1920s and early 1930s marked a turning point in Bogart's career as he began shifting his focus from stage to screen. As opportunities in Hollywood began to beckon, Bogart made the bold decision to move to California to pursue film acting full-time. Phillips, who had firmly rooted her career in New York and was reluctant to abandon the theater for uncertain prospects in film, chose not to follow him. The physical distance and diverging career paths placed an increasing strain on their relationship. Although they remained married for a decade, their lives had largely grown apart. Eventually, they agreed to part ways, and their divorce was finalized in 1938. Despite the separation, their relationship did not end in bitterness. In fact, the two reportedly remained on friendly terms, indicative of a mutual respect that endured beyond their romantic bond. Shortly after his divorce from Phillips, Bogart entered his third marriage, this time to actress Mayo Methot. They were married on August 21, 1938. Methot, a talented but troubled actress, had a career in film and stage, and the two met during Bogart's rising fame in Hollywood. Their relationship was marked by intense passion, but also extreme volatility. Both Bogart and Methot were known to have fiery tempers and strong personalities, which made for an often explosive dynamic. Methot was deeply insecure and reportedly suffered from alcoholism, which only amplified the tensions in their marriage. She frequently accused Bogart of infidelity, often without concrete evidence, and their arguments became legendary among their peers. The couple's frequent and public confrontations led to them being dubbed the Battling Bogarts by friends and the Hollywood press. Despite the turbulence, Bogart stayed in the marriage for 7 years, perhaps out of a sense of loyalty or hope that things would improve. However, the relationship ultimately became untenable. The emotional toll and constant discord proved overwhelming, and the couple officially divorced in 1945, ending one of the most tumultuous chapters of Bogart's personal life. That same year, Bogart found a very different kind of relationship when he married actress Lauren Bacall on May 21, 1945. This would be his fourth and final marriage, and the one that would come to define his later years, both personally and professionally. Their romance began during the filming of To Have and Have Not, 1944, Bacall's film debut, in which she famously delivered the line, "You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve?" A line that would become iconic and symbolic of their on-screen chemistry. At the time of their marriage, Bacall was just 20 years old, while Bogart was 45, a significant 25-year age difference that raised some eyebrows in Hollywood circles. Nevertheless, their bond was undeniable, rooted in mutual respect, admiration, and a shared love of acting. Unlike his previous marriages, Bogart and Bacall built a strong, enduring partnership that balanced domestic life with their professional endeavors. They went on to star together in several classic films, including The Big Sleep, 1946, Dark Passage, 1947, and Key Largo, 1948, further solidifying their status as one of Hollywood's most beloved screen couples. Their marriage produced 2 children, a son, Stephen Humphrey Bogart, born in 1949 and named after Bogart's character in To Have and Have Not, and a daughter, Leslie Howard Bogart, born in 1952 and named in honor of the British actor Leslie Howard, Bogart's close friend and co-star in The Petrified Forest, 1936. Bogart was said to be a devoted and affectionate father, cherishing his time with his children and embracing the joys of family life, a side of him that contrasted sharply with his hard-edged film persona. Today, Humphrey Bogart is remembered as one of the greatest legends of classic Hollywood, an icon of cool cynicism, tough guy charisma, and romantic tragedy. With timeless roles in Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, and To Have and Have Not, Bogart's legacy has been carefully polished into that of a cinematic hero. But behind the camera, behind the smoky bars and unforgettable one-liners, there was a more complicated and often troubled man. A darker side to the actor that has long been overshadowed by his silver screen image. This is the Bogart that few discuss. The volatile drinker, the combative personality, and the deeply flawed human being wrestling with demons of his own making. Perhaps the most defining characteristic of Bogart's private struggles was his chronic alcoholism. Known for his gruff voice and hard-boiled demeanor, Bogart's public persona blended seamlessly with his real-life affinity for drinking. But while the media at the time often romanticized his habit, portraying him as the quintessential hard-drinking man's man, the truth was far less glamorous. Bogart drank heavily throughout his life, and those closest to him often bore the brunt of his dependency. Friends and co-stars recounted tales of his erratic behavior during binges, mood swings, and periods of deep depression. He was known to arrive on set, drunk or hungover, leading to tension with directors and studio heads. His drinking wasn't just a lifestyle, it was a coping mechanism, and it frequently impaired his relationships and professional discipline. Bogart was also known for his combative nature. He could be abrasive, argumentative, and quick to anger, particularly when challenged. He often butted heads with film executives, producers, and even fellow actors. While some admired his refusal to bow to the powerful studio system, others found his behavior exhausting and unpredictable. His sharp tongue and sarcastic wit, which served him well in film, could be cruel and cutting in real life. At times, his confrontations bordered on physical, and several colleagues noted that Bogart was never one to back down from a fight, whether verbal or otherwise. These clashes weren't always justified, and many stemmed from his own insecurities or a perceived slight that may not have even been intentional. Bogart's relationships, both romantic and platonic, were frequently tumultuous. His first 3 marriages before finding lasting partnership with Lauren Bacall were marked by infidelity, jealousy, and emotional volatility. His 3rd marriage to actress Mayo Methot was notoriously explosive. The couple earned the nickname the Battling Bogarts in the press, as their fights were often public, loud, and occasionally violent. Methot was also an alcoholic, and the two often fueled each other's worst instincts. Their home life was plagued by mistrust and emotional instability, with rumors of physical altercations and public meltdowns. Although Bogart eventually found love and stability with Bacall, Even that relationship began with scandal. He was still married when they began their affair, and their significant age gap raised eyebrows in Hollywood circles. Though often surrounded by friends, Bogart could also be emotionally distant and difficult to reach. He had a small circle of confidants, often preferring the company of a few trusted drinking buddies over larger social groups. Even among these friends, he was known for his caustic humor and tendency to deflect vulnerability with sarcasm. His son, Stephen Bogart, would later speak of a father who was both deeply loving and frustratingly remote, one who showed affection in fleeting, inconsistent moments. Bogart seemed to struggle with expressing emotion off-screen in the way he so powerfully did on-screen. This emotional reserve could leave even those closest to him feeling isolated. Bogart's foray into political activism also revealed a more complicated side of his character. Initially an outspoken critic of McCarthyism, Bogart joined a group of Hollywood celebrities who traveled to Washington in 1947 to protest the House Un-American Activities Committee's communist witch hunts. However, under pressure and scrutiny, he later distanced himself from the cause, publicly stating he had been duped into participating. This reversal disappointed many of his liberal colleagues and revealed a man torn between principle and self-preservation. The shift showed that Bogart, while brave in some ways, was also vulnerable to fear and uncertainty. His actions reflected a man who, despite his tough guy image, could be swayed by external pressures and personal doubt. Part of Bogart's darkness may have stemmed from childhood experiences that shaped his adult temperament. Born into a wealthy but emotionally detached family, Bogart's relationship with his parents, especially his father, a prominent surgeon and morphine addict, was strained. His mother, a successful illustrator, was distant and critical. Bogart grew up in an emotionally cold household, which likely contributed to his later struggles with intimacy and trust. These early wounds left a mark on him, and the emotional armor he developed as a young man would stay with him throughout his life. In many ways, the bitterness, cynicism, and hard edge that defined his screen presence came from a real place. Despite these personal failings, it's important not to reduce Bogart to just his darker attributes. Like many great artists, he was a man of contradictions, capable of great loyalty, charm, humor, and generosity. He remained friends with people for decades and was beloved by his co-stars, especially in later years. But in peeling back the curtain of his myth, it becomes clear that Bogart was no mere hero. He was a man haunted by insecurities, given to self-destructive habits, and prone to hurting those closest to him. His legend has endured precisely because he channeled all these complexities into unforgettable performances that still resonate today. His marriage to Bacall remained strong until his death from esophageal cancer on January 14, 1957, at the age of 57. Bacall stood by his side through his illness, and after his death, she often spoke of Bogart with great love and reverence. Bacall stood by his side through his illness, and after his death, she often spoke of Bogart with great love and reverence. But love, even the truest kind, couldn't save a man already fading into myth. Humphrey Bogart didn't need explosions, capes, or special effects to become a legend. All he needed was a stare, a silence, a single line delivered like a gut punch. But behind that myth, there was a man unraveling. One drink at a time, one failed marriage at a time, one silent regret at a time. He was the face of tough guys, but inside he was all cracked glass and quiet storms. He fought studios, he fought love, he fought himself. And in the end, it wasn't just cancer that took him. It was a lifetime of demons, packed behind every cigarette and shot of whiskey. We remember Bogart not because he was flawless, but because he wasn't. Because he dared to be real in a town that rewarded fake. And maybe that's the most powerful thing a Hollywood legend can do. If this pulled back the curtain for you, if you saw the man behind the myth, drop your thoughts in the comments. What part of Bogart's story hit hardest? And don't forget, like this video, subscribe to Hollywood Raw, and stick with us, because we're not here to give you the version Hollywood sold. We're here to give you the version they tried to bury. Raw, real, unfiltered. That's the Hollywood Raw promise.